Hello everyone, my name is AJ Williams and I'm one of the admission counselors here at Santa Clara University. I would like to give you a little bit of context because when it comes to four-year universities, you have a lot of options out there. Really in this country, when you're talking about four-year institutions, there are upwards of 2,000 plus institutions out there to choose from. And really those fall into one of three categories, and I like to talk about those categories by size because for you guys as students and families, it's more tangible that way. And so on one end of the spectrum, you have traditionally what you would call liberal arts institutions. And those schools tend to be some of your smaller institutions out there, ranging in size from maybe a couple of hundred to maybe a couple of thousand. The benefits of a smaller environment are smaller class sizes, smaller student to faculty ratios, the ability to do undergraduate research, get published, study abroad, have an internship, do all that important networking that you should be doing during your 4 years of school. So that's one end of the spectrum. And on the other side, on the flip side of the spectrum, you have much larger institutions, which are usually much larger because they're there for the public. And so you'll see schools that start in the 10, 20, 30, 40, on up to 50. Some schools are getting close to 80,000. Your first couple of years of schools that size, you're talking about intro level classes that might range in 100 students in a class, might get up to, I'd say on average, about 300, 350, maybe 400 students per class. Quite frankly, there's no one situation that's good or bad or the best for any student. It really kind of comes down to how you learn and what kind of environment you see yourself doing best in. To be frank, if you're a good student, you can go to class, take good notes, go home to your cafe or dorm room and study those, come in and ace the test. Academically, you do fine wherever you go. But if you're the kind of student who says, you know what, I look forward to being in a smaller environment and knowing my professor and the students around me, and you might want to look for that. So those are the extremes, right? Small schools on one end, large schools on the other. Schools like Santa Clara and schools similar to us fall in the middle of that. To me, a medium-sized school is anything from around 5,000 to about 20,000 students, and Santa Clara definitely is a medium-sized school. Although academically, as one of my colleagues will tell you later, we feel more like a smaller environment. And so the benefit, again, of a smaller environment, smaller classroom settings, smaller student-to-faculty ratios, things like that. Here at Santa Clara, we're on the quarter system. And so big picture, no matter where you guys end up, sort of a general rule in higher ed that 4 classes makes you a full-time college student. On the semester system, you take about 8 classes in an academic year. In the quarter system, which is what we utilize, you take about 12 classes in that same amount of time. So things move quickly here. The benefit to that is that you're able to get the classes that you need for your major, for your minor, for your general ed, or the basics that everybody has to take for a second major or minor. So things move quickly here. And so again, I think both the size and the speed of things here play into the fact that we have one of the higher retention rates in the country, meaning the amount of folks who come for their first year and move on to second year, 95%. One of the higher 4-year graduation rates, not 6-year, but 4-year graduation rates in the country at about 88%.
Hi, my name is Claire. I am an Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admission here at Santa Clara University, and I'm here to talk to you today about the application process. One thing to know about Santa Clara University is that we are a common application school. What that means is with this application, you can actually apply to a variety of schools using all of your information in one place. So something to keep in mind is that the information that gets sent to us is also going to be sent to other schools. When you apply to Santa Clara University in particular, you're going to choose which school you want to apply to. So you can choose either the College of Arts and Sciences, which is about 55% of our undergraduate students, the Levy School of Business, which is about 30% of our undergraduate students, or the School of Engineering, which is about 15% of our undergraduate students. Something to keep in mind, for all of these schools, it is the same application process, but the selectivity is a little bit different. So when we are looking at your application, that's going to be the biggest level of impact. Not as much your major, but more which school you chose to apply to. With the common application, there are multiple parts to this application. One, we are what we like to call your stats. So this is going to be your GPA, your test scores, and your high school transcript. Something to benchmark yourself around if you want to know what other students are looking like. These are the numbers from last year's enrolled class and what we call the mid 50%. So for the middle 50% of our enrolled students from last year's first year class, the mid GPA was 3.57 to a 3.9. Remember, that's the middle 50% of students. Looking at test scores, for SAT, that was about a 1270 to a 1430, and for ACT, that was a 28 to a 32. Beyond just looking at these hard numbers of your GPA and your test scores, we are also looking at your high school transcript. We're looking at the classes you took in the local context of your high school. Remember, you are not being compared to all students that apply to Santa Clara, you are being compared to the students in your context and in your high school, so we know what choices you had available to you. Within that high school transcript, we look strongly at your rigor. Were you challenging yourself? What types of classes were you taking? If you applied to business or engineering, we're going to take a stronger look at your math. We're going to want to see you getting to calculus if possible. With engineering, we're going to want to see what your science classes were like. In particular, did you take physics? Those are the hard parts of your application. At this point, when you are applying to school, you don't have as much choice over that because you've made the choices you did, you took the classes you took, you got the grades that you did. So that's kind of the set part of your application. The other part of your application is what we like to call your story. These are those parts of your application where you can use your voice and really tell us who you are in the application. The first part of that is going to be your activities and your community service. How do you spend your time? What did you get involved with? On the Common Application, you can actually list up to 10, but you don't have a lot of space to give us the context about that. Do the best that you can. We know what you're working with, but choose the 10 that are most important to you. Something to note, there is another section called additional information. This is an opportunity for you as an applicant to tell us anything else about yourself that didn't quite fit into one of the other sections of the application. If you need to explain a bad grade, if you need to explain why you had to choose one class over another, maybe you were limited in the number of APs that you took, or maybe there was a certain extracurricular in your life that was really special and really valuable to your experience, and you want to give us a little more insight into that, please utilize this section called additional information to give us any more context that you couldn't fit anywhere else in your application. After that, where you're listing the things you were involved with and how you spent your day outside of the classroom, you're also going to give us what we call a personal statement. You have about 8 choices with the Common Application. One of them is a free-for-all, so you really have unlimited choices. But we want you to use your voice to tell us what you care about, what you're passionate about, and what you want to bring to our community. I always say to students, after you've written your personal statement, 1, get as many other people as possible to read it, and 2, highlight any sentence in your personal statement that has to do with you as the subject. A choice you made, way you reacted to someone you reached out to, anything that you did, that's going to tell us more about you. If that's not at least 50% of your personal statement, you should go back and rewrite it. I have read some beautiful pieces about someone's very influential grandmother in their life, and by the end of the essay, I want to let the grandmother into college, and I didn't learn anything about the student. So remember to keep yourself as the focus of your personal statement. Beyond that, there's also the letters of recommendation. This is where you ask important teachers or faculty members or counselors in your life to send a letter on your behalf to us. At Santa Clara, we only need 1 minimum. You can submit up to 3. It is your choice who those additional 2 are beyond teachers. They could be other important people in your life, coaches, ministers, or anyone who has had an impact in your life. Something to keep in mind with the application process is that we at Santa Clara do what's called holistic review. What that means is anything you submit to us, we are going to read. So don't think that there are cutoffs for a minimum GPA or a minimum test score. While those are important pieces of your application and are going to play a huge factor in us assessing your application, they are not the only things we look at. So whatever you submit to us, we are going to read in the context of your whole application.
Hello, my name is Gerardo Miranda. I'm one of the assistant directors for undergraduate admission. I wanted to talk to you about the one application and 4 different deadlines that we do have here at Santa Clara University. The first ones are early action as well as ED1. These are due November 1st. We normally try to tell students when to, apply when they're strongest, meaning apply when your GPA is strongest, maybe when your SAT is strongest. If you feel like your 9th through 11th grade years have been great thus far, I would recommend you to apply early action or early decision 1. If you want to wait until the first semester of your grades to come out during your senior year, I would encourage applying for regular decision as well as early decision 2. These deadlines are January 7th, and you still have time to submit additional information up until then. Many families and students ask, is there a benefit to many of our students, and basically which application would be best for them. There are percentages when it comes down to it. There is normally a higher percent of students getting in if you apply through the early decision route. For students that are committed to come to this university and you feel like you're financially stable, you can actually apply to the early decision route, but it is a contract that you have with your counselor, your parents, as well as yourself, that you'll be coming to the university if you are accepted into the school. But if you want to go regular decision, you want to weigh your waters and just kind of, wait around and see your other decisions from other universities, wait around until regular decision. This is where the bulk of our applications do come in, but you will be competing with the remainder of our students that we do have, which is about 10,000 applications that do come in through regular decision.
International students have a few additional requirements for the application process. For international students, we require a high school transcript that also has an English translation. We also require that any international student who did not attend a 4-year high school that's spoken in English, we require that they also do an English proficiency exam. We accept the TOEFL, IELTS, and Duolingo. For international students, we also do not have need-based aid available. That means that international students need to send us a financial resource form. Visit our website at scu.edu/admission.
And we are excited to see you as future Broncos on our campus. Remember, future Broncos, you can invent the life you want to lead.